going to do salted caramel sticky buns. And I'm going to start with the sauce over here in the pan, and then I'm going to move over to making the yeast bread recipe. Pretty close to the basic recipe that I usually do, and we'll get started. And you can also make this recipe with all-purpose flour. I'm not a big proponent of that, but if that's all you have, they are delicious either way. So let's get started. We need 2 sticks of butter melting here. And then I'm actually going to mix in 6 tablespoons of heavy cream. This is going to go on the bottom of the pan. So here's our 1/2 teaspoon of salt for the salted caramel effect. And I am doubling this recipe, but I'll put the single recipe below. And then 2 cups of brown sugar. And then you just stir this up. You do not want it to simmer. You basically just want the butter melted. And so once all of this is wet, you are finished with this part. So I'm just going to keep stirring this while this remainder of butter is melting here. Okay, so I have 3 9-inch cake pans that I have already sprayed liberally. That part is important just because these will stick, i.e. the sticky bun part. So I'm actually going to be putting about 1/2 cup of this caramel sauce that we've made on the bottom of the pan. I'm going to divide this because I am doing 3 to possibly 4 pans. We'll see how much I get here. That wasn't quite a full cup. And then we'll just do a little more here, needed a little bit. And then I'm actually going to have enough for 1 more pan, but we'll just start with these 3. So you just get that covered over on the bottom. Set that aside. And then I'm going to do about 1/4 cup of nuts, just sprinkled over that per pan. This is a 1/4 cup measure, or 1/4 cup measuring cup. We're just going to sprinkle those over. If you want more, you can. Don't get too carried away though, because when they bake, sometimes it can just be too many if that's possible. I love pecans, but sometimes you can overdo on that part. So anyway, let's give another little bit here. So they're just covering the pan. We have our caramel sauce, and then we're going to start our dough. Okay, so for the bread recipe, I'm going to be doing a 4-loaf batch because I have 4 pans over here, but like I said, you can do just 1. And I know 2 cups of brown sugar seem like a lot in the recipe, but it's actually going to be 4 times of spreading that around. So it's about 1/2 cup or something per pan. So anyway, we're going to start with 3 3/4 cups of very warm water. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put in 1/4 teaspoon of vitamin C powder because these are going to be all whole wheat. But if you decide to try the recipe with all-purpose flour, don't put the vitamin C powder in. It's not necessary. It's just there to help the heaviness of the wheat rise. 1/2 teaspoon. Actually, I'm going to do a teaspoon of salt, and this is my 1/2 teaspoon measure. So I'm going to do 3 teaspoons of salt. That is not 6, it's just 3. I just had a 1/2 teaspoon out. And then I'm actually going to do 1/3 cup of organic coconut oil. This is a little different. If you don't have coconut oil, you can use shortening, but coconut oil is just a better alternative to that as far as health-wise. So just get that off. It's a little different than the olive oil we usually put in. 1/3 cup of honey. You don't want the dough to be too sweet, just slightly sweet. So it's going to be very close to the basic recipe. Okay. And then I'm going to cover with some flour. It's about 3 cups of flour per loaf. Again, there's give or take a cup or 2 depending on the day and the moisture. So I'm going to start with putting in 3 cups and spreading it over my water here to cover all the liquid, so that we don't have our yeast getting to it too quickly. I'll go ahead and do 6. If you were doing a single batch, then you would of course just do 3 cups of flour, and then you would turn the machine on and see how it's doing. So I know I'm going to need at least 9 cups. keep on, I have my flour covering the surface here, so I'm going to make a little place and an indentation there so that I can put my yeast in there. And I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of yeast. And if you're using packets, that's a packet, if you get them in single packets at the store, equals about a scant tablespoon. So that's what we do per loaf. And then I'm actually going to turn this on. Speed 1. Always forget to take my lid off on these videos. We're gonna get it going here. So we're looking for a certain texture or consistency. So here it's really wet. The coconut oil is not melted, so that's gonna have to incorporate a little differently too. So I'm just waiting a second. Now I know we're gonna need another full cup just by looking at how wet it is. That'll be about 9 cups for me, so here we're going with 10 cups, just to kind of give you an idea today that it's probably going to need 12 or 13 cups. Okay, so I'm waiting. Every time you make an addition of flour, just let it get incorporated before you add any more so that you don't over dry the dough out. Okay, that is really close. We're about to hear the transition and actually going to add just a little more flour. Don't worry about the measurements after 3 cups too much because it will vary from day to day. Now as you can hear, the machine has geared down and I'm just going to put just a little bit more. It's pulling away from the column and it's pulling away from the sides along the bottom there. I'm just going to add a couple, maybe 1 more tablespoon or 2, and then we're going to let this work or knead for 5 minutes on speed 2. Okay, so the dough's ready. I just sprayed my counter. Just going to spray my hands a little bit, and I'm going to get the dough out of the mixer bowl here. If you used a bread machine or whatever, just turn your dough out onto the counter. You're going to need to be able to work with it. That is what your mixer bowl should look like if the dough has done what it's supposed to do. Let's sit this over here. Okay, so I'm not going to work with the whole thing at one time, of course. I'm just going to shape it into a ball, and then I'm going to use my little handy dandy thing. I love this. It's great for scraping the mess up after you're done as well. It's going to cut this in 4 sections just so that I know exactly, because I need to get 4 pans out of this and there's not going to be a problem doing that. I'm going to spray the counter here. Again, we're not using flour on this one because we don't want to over dry the dough. So this one we're just going to roll out in a rectangle of sorts. You don't want them too thin for the sticky bun recipe. You want them to be able to rise up. So that's about good. You just want it in about a 9 by 9 or ish thing. I'm going to do, this is 1/4 cup of sugar on each one of these because we're going to have the caramel sauce is sweetened too, so we don't want to overdo it. This is still a very healthy dessert minus the sugar, if you consider anything you would buy at the store, and it's good for you and it's delicious. Whole grain bread has tons of B vitamins and vitamin E. It's just so good for you. Even though gluten has gotten a bad name over the years, that's usually not the problem. When you're dealing with fresh flour, there's too many good things to exclude the gluten unless you have a true issue. So we're just going to roll that up just like we did for our cinnamon rolls. Just going to put them to the middle there. I'm going to kind of squeeze them up because the ends always get a little bit more narrow. So once we have that, I'm just going to cut this into some sections. Okay, and then we're going to actually just reshape him. We're going to start in the middle here. We don't want to mush them down too much. So I'm just going to put our bigger ones on the outer edge. And these are gonna actually be inverted, so we're gonna turn them out upside down. So this part of what the cinnamon rolls look like is not that important. And so we're gonna get 8 of those, I think. No? Can I count? 2, 4, 7 of those. Let's turn him upside down there. Okay, or right side up. All right, so these are going to rise, and then they're gonna bake like this, and like I said, we're gonna flip them out, and I'm gonna finish my pans out, and then we'll pop them in the oven on, not an oven that's on, just in a barely warm oven or a completely cold oven, and we're gonna let it rise probably about 20 minutes, and then we're gonna bake them at 350 without taking them out of the oven. Okay, so here I've actually turned out the sticky buns, and that is one pan that we've inverted. And this is what they look like when they come out of the oven, so they're really close together. And then all you do is turn this out onto another plate. And get all that goodie off the bottom. You don't want to leave that. And get it on there. Okay, so this is them all out of the pans. I ended up getting 4 batches out of this, so there's like 24 rolls. You do want to put a baking sheet, like a cookie sheet, underneath the pans because mine dripped a little. They usually do, and I've forgotten about that. So make sure you just put something underneath it to catch anything so it doesn't drip on the stove. They smell amazing, and I will post a recipe below for just one batch, and then of course the one for this mini's on the video. Hope you guys enjoy.